could artificial intelligence replace therapists? The idea now is that chatbots might be sentient or have feelings and stuff.
TikTok shopping plans for US abandoned after disastrous UK experiment. I already talked about this trend of retailtainment.
They're talking about this startup who will just making kerosene out of water and carbon by using solar.
Teaching history, for instance, in VR is so much more vivid than just reading about who fought who on the battlefield and not understanding the real, how this whole thing happened.
Hi and welcome to episode 30 of the Tech Review. Every 2 weeks we gather to discuss the hottest topics in science, technology and innovation. On camera 4 today we have Nilufer. Wait, where is it? There we are. On camera 3 we have Chris. On camera 2 we have Alex. And on camera...
Tarek, where
Wrong
are
button.
you?
Okay, this was broken. But here I am. Hi, camera 1. Okay, but if you like... This is what I wanted to show. If you like what you see here, then of course you can follow us directly on our websites, ideasengineering.io or freetech.academy, or of course on one of our many social networks, which you see on the screen and which we will link in the show notes and description below the video. So let's jump into the news. There's always something going wrong, as always. Okay, let's see. Today we start with Chris. Or is this the same thing? No, it's...
I don't see... So it's the psychology link, actually,
Yes.
which I have brought today. And it's the only one I have today, since I was on holiday last week, just came back on Sunday and have just one link with me. All right, so it's about Lambda again. And the whole discussion actually raises the question, could artificial intelligence replace therapists? And I think we had that like 2 or 3 times now in the tech review here. But I think that after Blake Lemoine actually came up with the idea that Lambda is self-aware, that had various implications, right? Lots of discussions behind that. And the idea now is in the room that chatbots, or at least Lambda, might be sentient or have feelings and stuff. And I think we are quite clear that this might not be the case. But the thing is, if customers think so, then this raises the question, from my point of view, if this technology actually can be used as a tool for, as it is said here, psychological therapy. And if we take Lemoine's experience into consideration there, which was very intense, apparently, right? So it seems that this approach at least has the potential to act like a therapist in psychology. And so now we can think if we could extend an AI in the future also to react not only to like verbal, but also to non-verbal reactions, right? Like facial expressions and everything. Such an AI could like probably suit the requirements which an average therapist usually has. And I think like a real, or this is what is said actually in the article, that like a real therapist, it might start like with neutral observations, and then it might modify its responses based on the patient's reaction. And so in this case, the AI would respond differently to each patient's and different to each patient's mood, right? And if then also the AI could be taught to offer suggestions that strengthen the patient's ability to find answers from themselves and from within, then this might really be a way in which like AIs like Lambda, chatbots like Lambda could be actually could be used as an AI therapist in the future. And I think this is a discussion which might be worth of taking into consideration and being put on the table here in the Tech Review.
Yeah, I have an opinion about this one. I think in certain degrees it makes sense in terms of there are a lot of times, not that I'm regularly in therapy, so I'm not 100% sure about this one, but I guess where it helps that you simply have a conversation with someone about your problems, about your inner feelings, about the conflicts that you have, where you feel better after having this dialogue with someone. And I think in this case, it would be great to have something like an AI therapist. But I believe that in terms of a medical professional, where a therapist could actually provide some proactive insights, some knowledge about medical history, compassion about your personal situation, where you actually think a human being is necessary to do this job, I'm not sure if this AI would then be able to actually replace this medical professional. So I'm not 100% sure if we are there yet, that we could actually replace a therapist 100% by the AI. But maybe at some point of time where the AI is actually trained for years and years with actual medical files and medical history of patients and best practices and these things, maybe it would make sense. But when it comes to, I don't know, hand out prescriptions for like psychoactive drugs, which probably also falls into the area of psychotherapists, right? I think there it might become dangerous if the machine is taking over this part as well. It's things that are beyond working as a chatbot, right?
Would it
Absolutely.
be enough for you to have a chatbot answering your questions? Or like if you need someone to vent to, let's say, for instance, you had a really hard day at the job, and
Sorry.
no, you're good. Just shut me up. That. But if you need someone to vent to go to a chatbot and vent to, I mean, like I do with a BVG bot every time that I'm frustrated, just hit the BVG bot and.
But I'm kind of with Tarek at this point when it comes to loneliness, and I think this is one of the main things psychologists in big cities are faced with, problems of people grounded by being lonely, having nobody to talk to. And when this is the first step to, a lot of people or old school people just think they don't need a therapist. Maybe this could be a point just to take the first step. And when they feel better, and when it comes to medication and this stuff, I'm really 100% with Tarek, then it needs a really professional human being who can really go with them or just take care of them. But I think for the first step, it's really good. And I would do that, I think, when I come home and, just the first thing I had, a panic attack or something on my way from home to home. And then I just need to speak to someone. But, this human face-to-face, finding a therapist, this is work, this is hard work. And when you're really in a bad situation, you need first care, this first thing, speed that someone is there and you can just, maybe the artificial intelligence can just do a date with a real therapist then and find a professional therapist for you who matches really to you, like, Tinder, matching. This is a really good thing. And, when I've never been in therapy, so I cannot really speak about that. But I think the human factor would be, for me, a really big point if someone is matching to me, or is the, this interhuman level, is it right or not?
Yeah, as we discuss now, so the psychological therapy apparently is like a broad spectrum, right? So it starts with just talking to somebody, and the other end of the spectrum is really like giving medication to somebody. And of course, we should not start with the fifth step before we have done the first. But nonetheless, the fact that people really think that Lambda is sentient, that it has feelings, that it understands the customers in this case, this, from our point of view, is at least promising for an approach of having an AI therapist, because it is an indication for the idea that people really feel understood by the person the chatbot on the other side. And if that could be enhanced, like with algorithms, we could go further over this level of just talking to somebody, but really of giving the feeling of being understood in a way, right? Also psychologically wise. And of course, it should not be maybe used for the really tough cases like suicide, endangered people or so, but for the average, whatever kind of depression or something, it might be helpful, at least as a first step. So, and as said, it might not be the case that it is already there, but it says and it shows that it might be a way which we could take in the first or with the first steps, like based on AI therapies or AI psychologists. Since, as said, the first step is done. The first precondition is there, and that is that apparently the AI is being, at least by some people, accepted as a being who really understands what I'm talking about, who gives me the feeling that I'm understood by the entity on the other side.
Chris, just for the sake of understanding now how this Lambda thing is working, or at least describing then to our viewers, the millions of viewers that we have right now, is the audience that Lambda has and the people that actually say, I feel understood by Lambda or by this AI, are they aware that they are speaking to an AI at this point? Or is it the Turing test actually? Is it basically the Turing test?
They are aware that they are talking to an entity which is claimed to be an AI. But they have the feeling that this AI is no longer just like a machine, but it has become sentient.
I see.
I think this might actually be the hardest test for an AI because all other medical procedures, I mean, nothing against the medical doctors, but if I think about a diagnosis, what's the word? What's the English word? Diagnose? Diagnose, right. About the diagnose, we already know that very often machines are outperforming doctors because getting the images of x-rays and finding like cancer cells or something like that, this is already performed, I think, in many cases by the machine, supervised by medical doctors, because machine learning does this very, very well, interpret images. And I think even robotics become so powerful that medical procedures like surgery might be performed by robots in the future because they can work very, very precise. But in terms of the human mind, I think this might be the hardest part to actually trust that the machine is not working like a very, very sophisticated chatbot that simply finds the right cues and throws back some answers that fools you into thinking that this machine is actually compassionate, but having compassion and connect with you on a human level. And this is what you said in the very beginning, that people believe that this machine is actually connecting with them and having emotions and being compassionate. But this, regarding to Google, is not the case yet. The chatbot or Lambda was designed to be a very, very great chatbot, but being a chatbot, meaning fooling people into thinking that this is actually a human being that they are talking to. Yeah, and so here we enter the realm of philosophy, where we have to find out if being a perfect chatbot qualifies you to be a feeling living entity. Yeah, because you could argue as a human being, I am nothing else than like a very sophisticated chatbot. My brain processes what you are saying and I give you some kind of matching answer. But regarding to Google, this chatbot is nothing more than a very, very, very good chatbot.
But this is not the question here from my point of view. The question actually refers to the other side of the line, to the recipient, to the one who's talking to the chatbot. And if he believes that the entity on the other side understands what he's talking about, then it doesn't matter if the chatbot is only fools or claims to be sentient, or tries to fool the person on the other hand, or to pretend something which he isn't. If the person feels understood, then I think the goal is achieved, and then it works for the patient, so to say. And I'm not quite sure if that is true anyway, because sometimes you talk to people, to real people, and you have the feeling talking to a chatbot, right? Because the real person on the other side is all time just like talking in bubbles, and you know what he's speaking about before he has opened his mouth, because he's just talking like in bubbles. But on the other hand, if you have like this machine and this chatbot, and as said, he has the ability of putting the right buttons regarding to what you expect and what you want to talk about, and where you have the feeling of being understood, and that works out, then yeah, I think it is kind of a communication, or at least it helps people on the other hand, as said, of feeling understood. So I think it might be working. Maybe not with everyone, but with
I
many
think
of those
this is
people
the point. This is the point. The point is the chatbot or this machine is connecting with you, with your brain interaction and the level of your thinking. So it gives you something back. And as you said, when you're chatting with someone or have a discussion, then it's most about arguing and being against each other. So it's not about connecting, it's about, fighting or something. So connection is a big point in psychology, I think. And it's about feeling understood and having this warm feeling. Someone is seeing me and my problems and understands it. And if I got this feeling, but what I don't really get right now is it a text-based machine, or is there an interaction opportunity like face to face? Or because this would be really interesting if they sees my face, and or am I just writing down my problems? So this would be a problem with with the people who can't really write or read well, or write about their feelings or something.
I think Lambda is really just a chatbot, and of course it's very easy to use like voice input and output. You could talk to it and you have this speech to text and text to speech functionality, but there's not like a robot face or anything involved. So right now we are only talking about the intelligence, the thinking part of finding the right responses and communicate with you in a human language way, but not like there is a robot sitting in the chair in front of you and actually having like simulating like a human being. It's just the conversation that you are having.
But this would be so great for older people, but for the old people who are sitting alone at home, fighting with depression and this stuff, this would be so good. Connecting Alexa with it and just having conversation over Alexa, Yeah.
There was this wonderful movie, you might have seen it, it's called Her, just Her. And that was exactly it, right? So there was this chatbot thing which has been developed and being sold as a virtual companion to people. And there was this one guy who bought this this device, and then he fell in love with the chatbot. And she also, seemed to fall in love with him. Of course, she didn't. Or let's say at the same time, she fell in love with another 100 million people. But she gave him the feeling of really understand him and being his companion. And he could talk about everything with her and got the right answers. And this is also a very important aspect. So of like feeling understood and having like a connection, as you said. So this, of course, is not only the ability of the other side, so to say, to put the right trigger or to put the right buttons, but it's also the openness from your side actually to accept the other side as a companion, as somebody to talk to, right? So if you are open, if let's say you are the patient and the AI therapist is on the other side, and you have the feeling that he really understands you, and then you get more open and open and open, then this is something which is coming from your side. And this helps, of course, building up this kind of connection, which you mentioned beforehand, even if there might be no real connection, because the machine just fools you. But if you don't recognize
I think this is the important part, that you're aware that this is just an AI answering to you. Because let me just showcase a worst, I'm good with that kind of scenarios. So you have the teenager who's being mobbed at school. He or she comes home, tells the machine, tells the therapist what happened at school, and the therapist says, yeah, I know it's a bad situation. You know, they all hate me. They hate me because of this and that, and because I'm whatever reason and so on. And the machine says, yeah, that's a really bad situation. You could do this and that, and whatever it comes up with. As long as the teenager is not aware of the fact that this is a machine, and this is a machine that could turn out really bad. I think with her, it was clear from the beginning, also in the movie, obviously, that it's an conversational AI that is helping him then to kind of adjust and to tell things, and that knows him because of his emails and all the conversations that happened in between the two of them. But it was always clear that this was an AI and not a real person on the other end. So I think as long as you make clear that the AI therapist is an AI therapist and not just a real person that can answer with, I know what you're going through because I experienced it as well in high school or wherever. This is the important part, to make sure that people are aware that it's just an AI on the other end, or that it's a human on the other end of the line than on the phone. I don't think that it's smart, especially when you start building that kind of applications and so on, to kind of try to fool people into that. For the sake of proving that it's so good, okay, but not when you start using it in production.
Yeah, as said, I mean, there's a spectrum of psychological aspects, so it should not be used for everybody. This is for sure. Nonetheless, I'm not quite with you saying that it is absolutely clear that there's an AI on the other side. So this is maybe.
But how do you then make sure to distinguish then? Because you said beforehand for suicidal people. Let's say for suicidal people, how do you make sure that the suicidal person is aware that? Or the AI is aware that it's, I mean, how do you distinguish then in the end?
Yeah. So this is what I mentioned before. So you have a spectrum, and of course the AI therapist is not something for suicidal people. So this is, as said,
but how do you know? Lower cases. Yeah, but how does the AI know then in the end? I mean, I'm not asking really you, but I'm just saying then, let's say I am, for the sake of saying, I would be such a person and I'm talking to this AI. If I even don't know that I'm, to be diagnosed as suicidal, and you eventually get into the situation. So I think it's a very long stretch to say, I would start with giving that free, or giving that into society as, this is an AI therapist. It can help you up until this and that point. And from that point on, you should pursue professional help. Human professional.
I see your point. I mean, this is indeed speculation, right? So if there might be a system like that, then of course there should be regulations and rules and mechanisms of when to use it, how to use it, who should use it. Maybe there's a real therapist beforehand saying, okay, look, I know you're just like a lower case. You can talk to an AI, so that would be working as well. I have the capacity anyways to talk to you just for the sake of talking to you. There are always the cases where people actually have to go home, because even the suicidal ones have to go home because they do not get any space.
There is not capacity with all.
There's no capacity.
Therapists.
Yeah,
I know.
They cannot have any meetings with a therapist because they do not have capacity. So that it might be of help, as said, for the lower cases, for handing them over to an AI therapist, so that the human therapists have more capacity for the real tough cases. But the thing I actually want to point to is, it is not. And there I'm not with you, that for the people talking to an AI, it is not clear very sometimes, and apparently we have seen that with Blake Lemoine, it is not clear that they are talking to an AI. Of course, that is what's being put on the package, right? Saying, okay, you are talking to an AI. This is what the company who actually provides the AI is saying to you. And then you talk to an AI. You know that from the beginning. But then when actually you have this conversation with the AI, you are being convinced, so it might be by the AI or by yourself, that you are not talking to an AI system, but this AI system has become alive for whatever reason. And if that is your belief, then this is something which is on your side. Then the company says, this is just a piece of technology. But if you believe that it's more than that, and if you believe in the esoteric, putting some kind of spirit into this piece of machine, and then you talk to something, to some real entity, kind of a wonder happened, then this is your belief. So in that sense, people know, okay, actually I'm talking to an AI, but it has become more than it was meant for in the beginning. And then, yeah.
That's fine. I'm rooting for a Christmas, or for a Santa Claus AI at this point.
All right, then go for it. Okay.
You know what I mean? Because if I believe in Santa and I want to talk to Santa, then that's fine. That's so I.
But why not? Maybe Coca-Cola comes around with this idea.
See?
Okay, let's jump to the next topic. And what?
To make one last sentence, I really believe that something like that chatbot companions are one of the next big things, if I think about it. One of the next big things which we will be seeing within this decade.
I totally agree, Chris.
Okay, I have a new thing now, and this looks like this.
And now, this.
Huh? It's a transition to the next topic.
It's better than the Obama thing or the China thing.
It looked like Hertha game.
It is actually the Axel Springer Blue. I made sure that it is the Axel Springer Blue. But since at the rest of the application I use pink, maybe the next time I use pink.
I was just about to say, but honestly.
It was not supposed to be Hertha. If our tech review is valuable for you, please give us feedback with a like or a comment. That would help us tremendously and it wouldn't cost you anything. And if you don't want to miss the next episode, just click on the subscribe button. And now, back to the news. So the next article comes from me, and this one I brought with me last time, but we ran out of time. And this is very interesting for two reasons. The headline is TikTok shopping plans for US abandoned after disastrous UK experiment. And I think a couple of tech reviews ago, I already talked about this trend of retailtainment, what we see in social media, especially in Asia, where platforms like TikTok are more and more used for retailing purposes, where the influencers directly sell products and make available products directly within their stream. So they are streaming on TikTok or Instagram or wherever and show like the new whatever coffee cup, and then you can directly buy this in the stream. And this is a huge thing with billions of dollars in revenue. And so the expectation is that in Europe and in the US, this kind of retailtainment will also be a thing. And so they started, or TikTok started in the UK, this experiment of trying to bring in this shopping experience into the TikTok app, and it was a disaster. The first answer is the obvious one. The numbers did not add up, so it was not really successful. People in the UK were not really feeling comfortable in spending money on TikTok. And even though they had like rebates and great offers, this market did not move forward. And the other disaster that happened was that roundabout, I think the article says 20 employees were leaving TikTok, this TikTok shopping branch in the UK, because of like workers' rights. There was, if I read this correctly, like a Chinese supervisor who tried to push the company in the Chinese way, where people had to work like more than 12 hours per day and were not able to take like sick leave and these things, because this is like poor workers' ethics, right? And they celebrated their workers' ethics where they had to be in the office very early in the morning to start their business, but also had to work very, very late to have then like meetings with China, with their office in China. And so people were leaving, like a huge chunk of the employees were leaving this company because it was not the way that we are working here in Europe with workers' rights. And so they changed, I think, even management. But on both levels, this experiment failed. For one, having like this Chinese-led company in the UK, but also on the economic level, they did not achieve what we observe in terms of retailtainment in Asia. And so I'm very, very interested to see how long it will take until this cultural habit of shopping on social media will come over to Europe or the US, or if this maybe never happens. Because if I take a look at Germany, for example, and the trend of cashless payment, we are not there yet. In the rest of the world, I never have cash with me. I always have my credit card. But in Germany, I never leave home without cash in my pocket because the Germans do not adapt to cashless payments. So maybe retailtainment won't be a thing in Germany. Let's see.
It's happening already. It's happening already, but not on the scale that that TikTok has tried, by the way. So Instagram is doing a similar thing. I'm following several brands on Insta, and they every now and then they have a live. They go live. And specifically for a few brands, they start dressing up people like in the clothes that that they sell online as well. And if you stick with them live on this live stream, then you get discounts that you wouldn't get if you're just consuming online without the live stream and then Insta. And so I can then, if I want to, go directly to their online shop or to their shop then in Insta and start purchasing with the discount that they're providing then within the live stream that you either visit or not, and then get hooked. And so I'll probably come back then for the next live stream because I get the discounts. So depending on how they incentivize their users, their shoppers, it does already work in the States. Specifically with the brands that I'm following with or up to. Germany, I don't know, to be honest. Because, I mean, Otto is not yet, I guess, in live streaming and on Insta that strong. Might be fake news at this point, but I guess it's not that. I haven't heard of it as of now.
Yeah.
Do you guys shop via Insta or other platforms, or do you ever leave Amazon?
I personally,
I'm a victim. I think
Amazon victim,
but not this. Yes, but because of this, scrolling my time, my TikTok or not TikTok, Instagram. Then it is of course Amazon products. And other stuff. I don't want to talk about the product I'm ordering, but I leave the platform and come back. But I never did and never saw this live thing, and I don't know if I want to see them. Yeah, I'm really afraid of it.
I personally, I'm very compassionate when it comes to comparing like attributes and properties and reading like the reviews on Amazon, and there I really like to compare products and these things. So I can't imagine scrolling through my Instagram or my TikTok channel and then directly buy there. Maybe I take ideas and then start researching on Idealo, for example, right, for comparing prices and properties and these things. But I don't think that I would directly buy on TikTok unless maybe we are talking about like unique things. If there's someone who 3D prints original things that are exclusively available there on this platform, then if we are there, this might be a thing where I can make like a micropayment for $2 or something, and then he sends me like this 3D printed thing that is not available on Amazon, for example. This might be an interesting thing. But if someone shows me, I don't know, like a new smartphone or something like that, I would never just. I'm not sure if this is actually the thing that you're buying on Instagram, but those things I would always use professional platforms for buying them.
I don't know how good it works for tech stuff, or let's say everything that is interior related, but I can tell you how it works for clothes. So you take a person like similar size, similar hair color, skin color, whatever, Nilüfer, and you take a model that looks more like me, and then you take a shirt and you put it then on a model like Nilüfer looks, or like how I'm looking. And I can instantly start discussing with the person, oh, could you put that to the Nilüfer model? Because I have this friend and I'm considering buying that for her birthday. And I don't know how the color comes across then the screen with her skin type and so on. Also with makeup.
And the size, if it's the real size, because
exactly.
This is really main question. Everybody is this size the main size, or do I have to take it shorter or bigger? On this is really a good point. Yeah,
exactly. Also with makeup, also with things that you put on, that you really hardly can like compare to each other in this Amazon style, where you have like, okay, so this is like true to size, or with shoes, or with, things like that. But to be fair, of course, I wouldn't buy a phone on Instagram either. But when it comes to clothes, for instance, and this is also something that might be even limited in terms of how many they produced. There is, like I said, there's this brand thing. That might be really, really interesting in the long term. The bag going together with the pants, and so on. So yeah, there's an addictive potential in here.
But the culture right now about consuming on Instagram or other social media platforms in Europe or in Germany, let's talk about Germany, is like consuming by just watching and leaving the platform, or going on a link or this stuff. And I'm not sure if this will be another thing about this upcoming next generation. It's a cultural thing. When you get used to it, and if it's like a daily thing, which is starting right now, in China, it's in common just to shop like this and setting models in a scene, and they are just putting and doing makeup. This is a full business there, and a job to be a person in front of thousands of mobile phones and just acting like as natural as possible. Maybe this would not be 101 like here in Europe, because we need authentic persons. We need it, more authentic than I think this just doing as if, just acting as if.
Well, let me make a strong case against that, because I get what you're saying, and depending on where you are in Germany, whether you're living in Berlin or in a rural area, but then how is what's the name of those TV
shopping
QVC
QVC thingy? How come it's so strong, and it's still a thing, and depending on whether you're following up on TV and stuff, you want to see how they move the vacuum, or how they, there's a whole industry living just out of that, advertising on TV. And since not all of us are into TV anymore, and the next platform is mobile phones, why not move the same concept and use the same concept then on it might not be for you, it might not be for me, but there's definitely a target group having money
Alex,
in their
we
pocket.
have a business case.
So I think it's a thing, it's going to become a thing. And even with people getting older and still having mobile phones, like you said beforehand, being alone at home, having the money in their pockets, on their phones, someone is live talking to them, someone is actually trying on the clothes that they are requesting. It might be mobile therapy without an AI, just spending I mean, it's sad, but that's what happens with QVC as well. Buying
I also
dolls.
think that I also think that this is a big thing which is coming up there. So QVC and stuff, this is apparently not for us, right? So this is for a generation, like at least one generation in front of us, maybe even two, and it's so unbelievable.
On the other hand, we had COVID and no one could go into the shops. And just going on H&M and ordering is one thing. And seeing how they put this on and whether it's true to size is a completely different thing. So even with people that are 20 right now and even younger, that could become a thing with I don't know, monkeypox pandemic.
But come on. So the thing is, I'm talking about generations here as well, right? So this is, as said, the QVC is not for us, and the social media shopping probably is also not for us because we are not the right generation. QVC is for the older ones, but the social media shopping probably is for the younger ones, for Gen Z and stuff. So especially if you think of the AR enhancement, right? So if you have as you had
glasses,
face paint. Nein, glasses here. Face paint. Wie heißt es denn? What's the name?
Face paint.
Makeup.
Oh, face
Makeup.
paint. War paint.
Yeah, so
war paint.
Face
makeup
art.
stuff. Yeah,
Face
it's
art.
not my domain. Sorry.
Yeah,
so
you're
if
good.
you have if you have an influencer and you really like that guy, it's a little bit like with the chatbot. You feel understood by that girl in that sense.
Kardashians, let's say.
That way, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whoever. So, and then they have this.
Foundation. The foundation that
the
Kardashian is using.
What was the word?
Makeup.
Face paint.
Makeup.
Makeup.
Yeah.
I like that.
We are leaving the tech area. No.
So now you have them showing actually some kind of makeup, right? And then you have an AR enhancement, and whatever they show, you can really try out yourself. You have on the upper level, you have the Kardashian girl, and on the lower level of your screen, you have yourself. And then you can put the various makeup thing onto your eyes and into your face and everything, and you can see how it looks like. And
a
then,
filter,
of course,
in Snap.
Yeah,
isn't it
but
right now?
It's exactly at the point, right? Gen Z is big in Snapchat, and what is Snapchat? Snapchat is AR, and now if you actually combine that, if you say now we have a YouTube channel, we have a Snapchat influencer, whoever, and who really works with the right generation, with the right target group, which is Gen Z, then with the right technology, which is AR. And then you have some shopping offer underneath your influencing little video thing, then of course that might be working.
Bobby Brown is already into it, and she's 62 years old. She's selling directly on TikTok. Bobby Brown makeup? Face paint?
Yes. Face paint. Face art.
So I think there is a case of it might not get that easy into Europe because we're very much aware of spending money online in comparison to on other platforms, but it's there. And Snapchat and all the other platforms that are providing all of those masks, filters, however you want to put it, are already biasing us in so many ways.
But when I'm getting Tarek's point, it was kind of not working because Chinese way of working. I just noticed it because this is how I work in confronting my deadline. I work in Chinese way, But this is the point. Another level of culture, culture level of what does this industry mean after all. You need the persons, you need the people behind it, and producing and being influencer is not that easy. It looks right now, and if I imagine that they are just sitting there and they have to sell, so they become from influencing to seller, so direct seller. And this is, I think, the next point, next level, which will really get in a point that can be really hard, I think.
Okay, let's leave it there, because I think we still have some links to discuss. So
Use your
And now, this.
your transition.
next one is
Schalke 04.
Niederfahr.
Oh, I wasn't getting that we are speaking English, so I was just. I think this article you will find in English too, but
That's
yeah,
fine.
good news. Good news. I think facing our climate problems, it was. There's a point I really like on this news is that they're talking about this startup who will just making kerosene out of water and carbon by using solar. And if you scroll a little bit down, the setup will look like isn't it nice? This one looks like, you have these towers and they bundle the sunlight, and it will not be transferred in electric power. They just need this sunlight to heat up the water inside it and to produce out of water and carbon kerosene. So this is, the idea. When you think about kerosene, when aircrafts are just starting, what do they produce? What's the problem? It's carbon. And they rewind this process, and you see there Verbrennung umgekehrt, rewinding the process, taking carbon, taking sun, taking water, and heating up the water up to, I think, 1,000 or 1,500 degrees. And this process produces somehow kerosene. But we are not at this point. This would be really good news if that would be in production, and yes, next year it's coming up. We have solved the problem. We have the game changer. It looks like this can be one answer to our problem. Like, they're producing it and they don't take the carbon out of air. It is possible to take carbon out of air, but it is right now at this point really expensive to do it that way. So they decided to take it out of biogas. It's much cheaper to do that like this, and so it comes that they can't produce a lot of amount of this kerosene, but they would start next year and produce for one start with tanken full
to fill up one jet with that. And the idea behind it is to have one answer, or put into the regular kerosene, mix it up with the kerosene we have actually now, and this can be one soil of producing it. And it is like CO neutral.
My first question would have been exactly what's the problem, because it sounds perfect. Simply reverse the
game changer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but if it takes so much energy and is very, very expensive, then this is the answer why it's not used in production yet. Yeah, but I mean, it's the same thing where we started with solar power, right? In the past, it was like very, very low energy efficiency, and so it was only in theory. And now our solar panels are so efficient that we start using solar as one of the primary energy sources on this planet. So it might be that someone in the future, they perfect this kind of procedure, and then we might not need any fossil fuel anymore, because we can simply boil up our kerosene and use it for CO2 what was the word? Neutral combustion, because we simply take the CO2 back from the air, put it back into the kerosene, and
I think you have to imagine. I was just fascinating about this. I think this is what you say. It's about design thinking. Reverse the process. Just think it, reverse it, and someone just did it. And this is really nice. This is really nice that they have a prototype right now near Cologne. And it looks like the eye of the Sauron, I think, when they have the full solar bundled at this tower. But yeah, just imagine it. I think I'm with you. I think the near future actually it can be one part, and they are planning to build it up also in Spain, in the southern Spain, because they have there a lot of space for that, a lot of sunlight of that. I think the water is not that far away. They can take water from the sea, and this is planned to be the next step. I hope they will do it. It's not taking that much time. I think for about over 100 years to have this electric motor engine was parallel to the fuel driven engine, and someone just set on this fuel driven thing because and so here we are now, back to 100 years ago.
Did you, by any chance, stumble upon which companies decided to work with that? Well, prototype, I guess that as soon as you put that kind of... Oh, Swiss, yeah, okay, because I stumbled upon something when I was looking for flights, and I wasn't sure if it was exactly that.
Maybe I don't want to be in the first flight that flies with this.
That's what I was basically thinking of. But on the other hand, if Swiss integrates that with its flights, I guess they test it properly
You are the
beforehand.
They will test it next year, so we will see. And they will fill up a jet, not a regular touristic machine.
But eventually that's the goal,
right?
To do that.
Yes, 100%. And if even they put 10% of the fuel with this, I'm fine with that. This is really a good step.
Okay.
Chris, we can't hear you.
He's on mute. Right.
Did they say something about efficiency then? I mean, if you have like all these ingredients, right? Like heat, carbon dioxide, water, steam, and everything, and then so you have kerosene actually, and you burn that, and then energy is being taken out of the process. Then if you want to reverse the process, then probably you have to take or put energy into the process, right? So, and then you want to use the result of the process to use it as an energy provider again. So my question is, what about the efficiency? So if you have to put energy into the process, is that, and which you want to take out later on again, is that really efficient? Don't you have to put more energy into the process, which then you can take out in the end? I mean, this is very often the problem with alternative energies, right? So that you have to put energies beforehand into the whole thing to create or to take energy out of the process then, but in the end it might not be more which you take out than what you have put in.
But you don't
got that point.
But you don't use kerosene to produce more kerosene. You're using like solar power.
You have the sun.
Exactly.
You have the sun.
Yeah.
It's just the sun. It's just the sun, which is just, okay, if we talk about the solar panels, the tower, the whole instruction, I don't know if from A to Z, it's the whole, the whole line is then after all CO neutral. But at this point, when you have this setting like this from there, and you just use, it's about the quality of the energy you use to produce it. The quality is you have sunlight and you just need sun and water. So that's it. And you take carbon, you take when you want it, like a bad thing out of the air, maybe you can do it. It's possible. And you take this and put it in the process.
And now this.
Interesting thought.
And now this.
Yeah, walking you really fast through this one. So, everyone is talking about the metaverse. No one is really doesn't really know what it is, except for Tarek and Chris, and a few special people. But, when people start doing research, and this article is about a person or someone called Dr. Musia Morris, who launched an experiment in teaching within the metaverse, because it was interesting for her to actually pick up this whole thing and see whether she could teach. She's a teacher. She's a professor at Morehouse College in the States, and she wanted to see whether it's possible to teach her topics then in VR, not specifically in the metaverse, but in VR. And then she took a class and sat down and started building this whole thing, and eventually started teaching people within a VR. And it was received so well because, there's not only people do not only just learn by reading or by listening. Some do need haptics or even watching videos and so on. So what you call in German ganzheitlich, the holistic learner. I don't even know if that's a term in English, but learning holistically. And the takeaway from this article is that in last November, some month after Dr. Morris, after Morris and the other faculty members launched this Morehouse in the metaverse, Meta announced that it was committing $150 million to its Meta Immersive Learning project. And so that we might get metaversities. What do you think about that? Because for me, it's like, so there's a little video, you can see people can actually learn like chemistry and stuff within the metaverse. And they, the takeaway for them was that it actually is something that they would have requested earlier if they knew it would have been possible, because it helped them with their studies actually to visualize. So this could become a thing. And depending on how much money Meta is going to put into this kind of projects, people could actually end up in VR classes in the end. And I'd love that, because teaching history, for instance, in VR is so much more vivid than just reading about who fought who on the battlefield and not understanding the real, how this whole thing happened. I, for instance, am someone who likes to visualize things a lot.
Yeah, I think, as always, it makes sense in moderation. And as we have it in classrooms today, there are some topics where it makes sense to watch a film, for example, and then the teacher gets the TV.
That's just because of vacation, usually.
And in the future, it makes totally sense, in the future right now, certain things to be experienced in VR. So what we have right now on the TV screen, maybe experienced in this VR setting. I don't think that everything must then be in VR, even though if you have something like a remote classroom, there's the question if you switch back and forth between things like Zoom and VR, for example. But I think for a lot of use cases, it makes totally sense.
I think it's not just about moving the classroom itself into VR. It's not that, but the teaching material itself. So imagine you have let's say landing in the Normandy or something, and you're not really getting why it was so difficult to get upon that hill, because you have the picture of the hill and so on in your mind, but understanding that to having the upper hand, speaking in Obi-Wan terms, is something that is really of a strategic advantage than usually when you're in a battle, is something that you can visualize very good in VR and make understandable in VR. But when you just read it and try to explain it to someone, it's hard to really understand why this is an issue in the end, and why the upper hand fraction then will win probably. Not in every case, obviously, but very often.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. right now you would show like a visualization on a TV screen or on
Or
a picture. And this is better than simply telling someone.
True.
And having now a VR setting simply makes exactly this experience a little bit more immersive. So it's just a better tool where you use the TV before, you use VR in the future.
Yeah.
But this is a good point. I'm not sure, we need more studies about that, how we learn and how we can use metaverse at all. And if it's like, I feel like I'm in it, but when I really feel and have this feeling I'm in it, maybe I can just memorize it better, can be, but better than a photo or a video. This can be really better than this. That the brain is just kind of, I'm feeling like I'm living, I'm in it, and then you have an experience, and then it's, more deeper. And I think in this holistic context, it makes sense. I'm not sure if this kind of learning gives a lot of distractions. You know what I mean? When I go there, there is if I can focus that good, and
I think
then
it depends.
we come to. Yeah, and then we come to this point. What have to be when I come to this room? What's the case? What have I to focus on? If I've got a lot of opportunities, a lot of windows, a lot of input, what's the case and what's the focus? And who is telling me what to focus on? When we go to school, there is a schedule, there is a timetable, there is someone, or there are cultural stuff we have to learn in a way or in a time. But metaverse is, kind of out of time and kind of space. So
you cannot take the material
tricky.
and just throw it in the room and then expect them to just pick it up as they go. This is something that has to be supervised and has to follow up on specific tasks. Like, for instance, when you have a test about two armies coming against each other or working against each other then on the battlefield, and you want to make them understand why a specific battle has been won because of a strategic decision that has been made beforehand, a strategic decision that has been taken beforehand. And very often you don't really get that when you're teaching history, or in the other case, when you're receiving history, you're actually the one in the room listening to this lesson. Take a few steps back and imagine yourself in the shoes of someone that is in 5th grade and is trying to understand how people migrated from one country to another country and so on. And things like that are so much easier when you kind of walk the way and understand that migrating from, Germany, or from, let's say, what is happening right now in the world, from Ukraine, and you would walk from Ukraine to Germany is an issue. It's not like you're entering, just like going to the airport, coming then and arriving here. And so migrations can, depending on the task, but always in a supervised manner, to my mind. So never just leave them alone with the material, because then obviously they are not going to understand what to do. But very often when you use that in biology, for instance, as they do over here, is like connecting the, like for me, I had a hard time in chemistry understanding to take away, to have the minuses. And when you work with the molecules and all this addition and subtraction, and that you have in order to understand how much molecules are in there, and when you put that like math on the notepad, it's one thing. If I start adding, and I might get a different understanding, but obviously the outcome, the task has to be clear before I start assembling stuff.
I have another case.
I think,
yeah, Chris?
I just want to say that I think it is not a question at all that, of course, the immersion which you have in VR, the three-dimensionality of the room, of the space, of course, helps understanding. So this, from my point of view, is no question at all. So it's totally different if you really can touch things, if you can walk around, if you have like various angles. in comparison to just like a two-dimensional piece of paper or just a text or something. Of course, this is something totally different, and it helps your understanding. But the question that I have actually is actually more coming from another direction, and this is that new? I mean, there are various platforms already offering teaching and transferring knowledge, like actually from VR platforms or into VR, and already offering that to classes in universities and in various branches like medicine, chemistry, and so on. So that is something which is so under the label of VR collaboration and VR teaching, well established already from my point of view.
No, but the potential to see, I get what you're saying. There are lots of companies that work already in that. But when and if Meta decides then to subsidize those initiatives, they might pop even more often up than just a few startups that manage to find VC funds and then work on that. And specifically, if the universities start to adopt it, and it's within the regular, like when you put it in education and it's accepted and not just a toy thing on the side, then you get to scale it. And I think why the article is so interesting, the metaversity, is because Meta involved themselves into subsidizing the devices to helping with adoption, actually. And if they start subsidizing, so this university wouldn't have been able to work on that and to actually provide all of those experiences then for the students if Meta wouldn't have been involved in that. At least it says further down in the article.
I think there's two aspects which is very important in that like context, right? So the first thing, of course, is the glasses themselves. Mm-hmm. So nowadays, Meta has the same problems as everybody else. So you cannot actually wear them like more than 1 hour, maybe 2, but that's the absolute maximum. And then you are through with it, right? So then you get headaches and you can't see clear any longer, and the battery is low anyways. So there, of course, something actually has to happen. There has to be a development, which they are on the way. So this is cool, but on the way, they are not there yet. But the second and maybe even more important thing is the creation of content, right? So if you have like a university and you have like lots of content you want to present to your students in any kind of classes. Of course, there's heaps of content to produce, and this is, especially in VR, this is three-dimensional content, complex content, maybe even this is quite complex. So I think the key actually also for Meta to offer that to universities and everybody else is that they also would offer an effective content management system or content creation system even, with which universities could create this content in an easy way, in an easy manner, so that it's not too expensive, that the effort is not too big for them, so that they can produce like their content for their students like in a row.
That's how this experiment actually started, by this professor taking a course in how to start up things in the metaverse and start building in the metaverse, but also they were able to pull that program off and have I think they will have now 15 courses within the next semester then, and it started with a few hours, but obviously they had to subsidize the devices but also the software licenses, and in a way, you have to actually have also the acceptance then by the educational programs to support that. So you have, like you said, you're absolutely right. How do they produce the content? Who's actually reviewing that kind of content and so on? On the other hand, every professor has a curriculum and can follow up, and it's up to him whether he uses like PowerPoint or, or OHA Projektoren or whatever they use, why not use the metaverse then? But if you don't have the devices and you don't have the licenses, you don't even have the chance to do so. So it's
exactly.
Yeah, It's a combination of things.
Absolutely,
and it says
absolutely.
that
And
without the
there's-
grant of, let me just tell you that without the grant of the 2-year trial, it would have been 150K instead of 15K to test that out.
Exactly. That's the question of money, of course. And there's another aspect which is really very important. I mean, we have also, like at Axel Springer, a VR collaboration platform. And there is one aspect. It has not only to be accepted by the programs, it also has to be accepted by the students, right?
True.
So, and if like imagine you have a class of 20, 30 people. Every single student of this class of 20, 30 people has to accept the VR collaboration platform and the VR glasses and the proceeding with it, right? So if there's just one person saying, oh, I get sick of it, or I get headaches, or I don't like that, the whole thing is being endangered, since this one student could not take part, let's say it's from medical reasons, could not take part in the lesson. Then what do you do with this guy? Then he's excluded. So this
And
would not
can
be
I
fair.
just
And
say a thing at this point? Because I think the idea of blended learning is to have to individual opportunities to get information for people in their way they can learn. I'm not with that everyone has to agree with something. You know, it's like linear TV, like everyone has to look at the same time TV. And if one is not looking, I think when we think education in a new way, this is one way which can be used in a blended way. Blended means a lot of opportunities like one-on-one or VR or just text-based or building things out of paper and painting, you know. I'm not with that everyone has to be at the same time in the metaverse to learn something. It
No,
can
they don't
be
have
just
to.
a setting. It is a setting. You can just, you know, like you pick your book and just look inside or watch a YouTube video, you know, Lehrer Schmidt or something. Then you take it in your time, and whenever you need it to take, it's actually happening now. So,
And this is, we're speaking here not about school, 5th grade. We're speaking about university, where you sign up to this class and where you decide whether you want to go into this VR class or you're not. So I guess that everyone who has been part of this class in the past decided proactively to participate in that and hasn't been forced then also by the program. So it's something that I would think is an addition and not without an option, or they cannot opt out. I don't see that in the article that they are not able to opt out. On the opposite, I see that even so they are saying that, so they are quoting, a lot of my students came away from this saying, wow, if I had that in my first year, I would have been a better chemist. I would have been a little bit stronger as a student. But that's like when they tested that out.
Okay, let's wrap this up. We're way over time. Chris, last words?
I just want to say that it probably depends on the format, right? So if you have really like a lesson where there is one lecturer and a group of students, and you put that into VR, like with visualizations and so, then that is something different than just a playback of something, right? So as said, it depends on the format. And what you also have to take into consideration that if you make it an alternative, then of course you have to produce the content in various for various platforms in parallel. So this is then an additional effort, of course.
And there I'm thinking about DALL-E. We did not discuss this one yet. We have two in the future, because as you might have seen, DALL-E is generating amazing AI generated pictures, right? Now imagine if DALL-E generates on-demand VR environments. You say, I need the Battle of Gettysburg or something, and then DALL-E simply generates it on the fly. Maybe we will have this in the future. If
you let DALL-E, when we're talking about the painter, generate that, it's going to be full of tigers and watches fighting against each other.
I'm talking about the AI.
I know.
It would be a LSD trip, yeah.
And the question is if that is historically
Right.
like, right. Yeah.
We have to see. I have
There
no
are
idea.
a lot of
But the
there
word,
are a lot of metaverse.
yeah. But the images generated by DALL-E are really fascinating. Okay, we are way over time. Thank you so much for your contributions. Let's take the remaining links that we did not present yet to the next time, even though, and this one is important, in 2 weeks, we will have our summer break. So no tech review in 2 weeks. We will see each other again in 4 weeks. And then maybe in VR. Let's see.
If we manage.
If
And
we manage to do this.
sun-kissed.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody is going to be tanned.
No,
Okay.
that's not healthy. We don't tan.
Right. So have a nice evening and see you next time.